Here's some background information that will help you understand why the hospital example is damaging, permanently damaging to utilitarianism. And the first thing is the idea of a scientific experiment where we do things out in the real world. We set up certain conditions and see what happens. Usually this is done to test theories. We have a theory, there was the theory of the Higgs field, of being responsible for mass in objects, the effects that we attribute to mass. And that was offered as a theory in 1963 by a fellow called Peter Higgs. And then in, I think, 2013, the Large Hadron Collider did an experiment that produced a particle called the Higgs boson. There's a particle that had the features that were predicted for the Higgs boson, and that could only be produced by a Higgs field. And so the theory was confirmed. Confirmation is an interesting concept in science. It doesn't, we say confirmed, we don't mean it's proved true absolutely. We just mean we set out of a situation where the theory might be proved false and it wasn't. So we got results that were consistent with the theory, and we say, okay, it wasn't proved false yet, so we're going to go on with it. And that's a sort of feature of science. Now, a thought experiment is kind of analogous to that. It's where we imagine a certain situation and then think about, well, what's going to happen in that theory. So it's in that situation. So this is sort of like taking a theory and exploring its implications in our minds. We're not actually testing it in the real world. Nobody has ever set up the inhospitable hospital and cut someone up to save other people. At least, hopefully not. Right? But we think about it in our mind. That's why it's called a thought experiment. And the thing about thought experiments is that they allow us to explore the actual logical implications of a theory. And many times in my life, I've believed in something or thought about a theory or accepted something, and then somebody comes along with a thought experiment and says, well, what about this situation? What would happen in this situation? I'm like, oh, yeah, that sort of casts doubt on it. So, right, if the implication of the theory agrees with our own beliefs, then the theory is not proved wrong yet. But when things we believe conflict with what the theory says, then we start to question the theory, or we think about our own beliefs. But I think that, yeah. So, and it doesn't matter if the hypothetical situation is likely to happen. It might be impossible. This thing about being able to cut someone up for their organs, that was absolutely impossible in the 19th century. It wasn't until the mid-20th century that organ transplants even became possible, and they were pretty dodgy. And so we're living a historical period where that example does seem possible, that it could be done, and we're very clear that we would not do it. Whatever reasons we may have for not doing it, we would not do it. In the future, they'll have artificial organs, but we're not there yet. So it doesn't matter if it's likely. If the theory has a false implication about something that could happen, then the theory is wrong. At least to that extent. That's why we take the hospital example seriously in utilitarianism.